Yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Bread for Soul Convos with myself, Sir LSG. And thank you to those who've been watching the series every morning. Thank you so much. And if it's your first time watching, thank you as well for joining us. And on this morning show, I'm happy to be hosting, I'm honored to be hosting the legendary OSUNLADE. How are you, brother?
Very good, thank you.
And firstly, thank you for joining me this morning. My
Pleasure.
yeah,
Good timing for me.
good timing for you. Yeah, it's 7 a.m. here. It's midnight, just after
It's
midnight where you
midnight
are.
here. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
perfect time. Studio time.
I don't know how you do it because I'm more of a morning person than a night. Like by 10 p.m.,
Yeah, I
lights
can't
out.
function in the morning, man. This is my morning. When the world is asleep, I'm alive. Better.
Super, super. I wanted to say, like, for personally, as a my journey as a musician, as an artist, you've been one of the people who have been, really at the beginning of it, because when I was in high school and house music in South Africa, um, was really brought by DJs who were doing compilations and they were licensing different songs from artists
Yeah,
like you. One prominent one in South Africa, if I could mention, is DJ Fresh. He had a
yeah,
series called Fresh House Flavor series,
yeah.
and
I remember. Yeah,
yeah, he licensed like a couple of your tunes. The first
yeah. The
one,
first, the first licensing that I ever received actually was the first release we did, was Native's Tongue.
Native's
I think it was
Tongue,
he. Yeah, Native's Tongue. Yeah, I think it was that one. Yeah.
super. And then he did Pride as well with Nadira Shaku.
Yep.
Super,
Yeah.
super. Yeah.
That's some love and support from South Africa from the beginning, man.
Have you
It's
always
always
felt
been.
connected to the country?
Yeah, from the beginning. I mean, my first time I think was probably maybe 2007, 2008, and I was just astounded by the beautiful people and understanding the impact of this music for us. So it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you went on to collaborate with KB.
Yeah.
Well, firstly on El Musica. How did you guys connect? Because I suspect it would be MySpace.
I think it was during one of my trips. I was there during the Red Bull Music Academy in Cape Town, and I was one of the teachers for I think it was about a month, and some kind of way we just met, and yeah, it was just a connection, and it worked out well, and we liked a lot of each other, and I saw at the time I think she was doing a television show,
Yes.
and yeah, and so it was I think she was just working on an album, and I just thought from a different perspective of a guy from America producing, an artist from South Africa that's doing this music, doing our music. For me, it was, again, you gotta understand from America, we do this, but it's like, okay, this is our music. This is normal for us. We don't expect it yeah, we don't have the expectation that it's gonna reach as far as South Africa. It's like, okay, that's the motherland. For us, it's like,
Yeah.
so to work with an artist from there, for me, the first artist there was important, just because I wanted to, I guess, kind of gel the two continents, the two vibes together, and it was really easy and quite fun just working. And I stayed in South Africa quite a bit of time during that period, so I got a bit more of the culture, and that was really beneficial to me as producing that album. And as well, I think I was at the same time I was working on my Aquarium Moon album in South Africa as well. So it was just the place gives me so much energy and love and purity in its essence that it's really difficult not to create and have something beautiful come from the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also with KB, I suspect you also did. There's a song that she did called Roots, and she had her mother on doing a chant. It was a tribal chant of some sort.
Yeah.
You did that, right?
No, I didn't do that one. No, I just
Oh,
did it feeling you and Musica.
and oh, cool, cool.
Yeah, but
Um,
I used to play this one a lot. I used to open my sets with this song all the time. It
yes,
was like standard.
super,
It's so
super.
beautiful.
I
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was telling my partner the other day, I need to learn to recite her mother's chant because we from the same tribe, but like I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
growing up, I kind of like lost, many of us in South Africa, just in Africa in general, there are parts of
Los
our
Angeles.
own culture that we've lost as we've grown, and become more, combined with other people, if I may put it that way.
Yeah,
But what has been
yeah.
your connection with, with Nigeria and your roots?
I mean, listen, I think my roots more than anything, in conjunction with Africa, is more spiritual. I was adopted as a kid, so I don't really have any lineage or any idea of where my lineage comes from. I know I'm a black man, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but my upbringing was a very typical African American upbringing. It was full of music and full of spirit. And I think that there's something that we get. It's innate in us. Although we are separated from the motherland, we are still part of it. And the blood is still through our veins. So I think that connection, as a kid, the rhythms and those things, it was just innate with me. It's like something that I couldn't. It's not something that I think of. It's organic, it's natural. When I write a song, whatever the beat is, it's just that. It's Africa.
Yeah.
It's just that's the thing that's in me. It comes out, and it's just the organic thing that's honest. And yeah, so I think my connection again it's just an organic one. It's the same with Latin and Caribbean energies and that kind of thing. Again, I'm a child of a diaspora, so there's many different lineages through my journeys to me. So yeah, all of the things that musically and culturally, African, Brazilian, Latin, all those things that are African based. They come from Africa. The roots, the rhythms, the melodies. All those things are so profound in my head and in my body and my spirit. So I think it's just kind of a natural thing for me to feel.
Mm, yeah, and it's evident in your music. We can definitely feel that. But I want to start a bit at the beginning with your journey and music. You started playing piano at 7, and
Yeah.
but what are some of the earliest memories of music growing up?
Oh, well, like I said, my household was full of soul music. So my dad was a big James Brown freak, like anything James Brown. My mother was Aretha Franklin. So I was a big Michael Jackson. Young age, um, and everything that black music, Motown, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, all that stuff. That was blaring in my ears. But growing up in St. Louis, specifically, I was catapulted into funk music. St. Louis is a really deep funk city because we're directly center of the country. So we get not only do we get all the stuff that goes to California, New York, Miami, Chicago, we get all of the stuff that comes from Ohio, small cities in Indiana, and all these so if you think about funk, Bootsy Collins, George Clinton, all these people that came from the Midwest. So this is I grew up with that kind of caliber of musicians and music. So when I was in my I guess in high school, from listening to whatever was popular back in the days, started playing piano and that stuff. And then in teenagers, when I started writing music right around 12 or so, and I had a few bands. And it was around the time of the late 70s, early 80s when Prince and the whole Minneapolis thing came. Again, that was such a big influence because we're like, 8 hours from Minneapolis. So again, Midwest. This was a different, I guess, influence because it was more about that's where I found my voice as far as an artist, as far as a producer. I saw this one guy. I said, "Wow, this one guy does all this stuff and doesn't need anyone." I said, "Yeah, that's pretty much that's how I want to do it. I don't want to have to ever depend on somebody to do anything. So I'm going to learn all this stuff. I'm going to do all this stuff." And so that was the biggest influence, just on that one thing. That I wanted to be self sufficient. Musically, of course, the Minneapolis sound and funk, that whole thing together, they kind of fuse what my music is. But I think organically, I'm more because of the piano. Like if you listen to a lot of my music, it's always mostly like rhythms and rows.
Yeah,
Really heavy rhythms and sweet, things that make you go, oh, okay. And
yeah,
that's just basically that's just me. That's me on the inside, and then I'm rugged on the outside, but I'm a big teddy bear.
yeah.
So I think over the years it's just different instruments and different influences kind of led me to find my sound, and it's more those things, those organic things. The drums are absolutely have to be the first thing. They have to be, it's not so much about them being hard as opposed to them sounding and making you feel like sonically. I want to kick to sound like a rubber tennis ball that's punching me in your chest as hard as it could. And you're just like, oh, I love it, but I don't want to like it that much, but I just can't So that kind of thing. So it's just those things when I'm making music, it's those elements, those sounds that I want to make you feel that way. So yeah, so those influences, those are the two biggest influences: funk and Prince.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest influences in my life. Yeah, the Beatles were really big in my, I think in my 20s, and I started listening to rock and jazz and stuff. So that was another layer. But the foundation for me is always funk and soul.
Yeah.
And definitely, I gotta add the Prince in there because that's it's a big influence for me. But during all that, like I said, I'm going to the African and all that stuff. It's all related because it all comes from the syncopated beat. It's that just like house music. We got 4/4. It's a heartbeat. It's like, okay, well, we all have that. It's the same. So it's that innate thing. That's the thing. That's the drum beat. That's the call and response. We react to that, and that's the thing. That's the connection for me.
Yeah.
And I think all of us. Yeah.
And before we get on, I just wanted to say, because when you move closer, it still just cuts a bit of your head.
Oh yeah, my head. Yeah.
Cool. But like I wanted to say, with regards to my own music, I've taken so much influence from your style as well, because I'm the same in terms of wanting to have the softness of piano and Rhodes and all live instruments, but still have a strong rhythm, if I may put it like that. But I wanted to ask you with regards to like a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, Jihan. I know, like, Jihan El Tari. I don't know. I'm sure you've known her, because she once told me that you almost worked together, did music for her films. She does a lot of political films. Egyptian. She's Egyptian, but she's based in France and Germany. Well, she's just world traveled. She was in South Africa for some time, but the reason I'm mentioning her, I want to ask you about doing music for Sesame Street in the 80s and early 90s. Please share about those experiences. What did you really get from those?
I mean, listen, that experience was literally, that always comes up in any conversation with me. It's so funny because that was one of those rare right time, right place kind of situations. I was in LA. I was a young kid, 17, 18, in LA, struggling, trying to get in the music business. Didn't know anybody. Met Tony Basil, who was at the time, I don't know if you know who she was, the girl who did, Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you love my man. Hey, Mickey. So anyway, she was a choreographer for Sesame Street, Devo, Bette Midler, and a lot of television shows. And I ended up living with her for about 3 months or so. And at the time, I was just this kid in LA, moved from St. Louis, and going to go out and try my luck in the big city in Hollywood, and I had my drum machine, and I literally would have sleep in her kitchen and in her living room with my drum machine, and she would have rehearsals in the living room with the dancers. And the specific situation, she was choreographing for Sesame Street, and they just ended up using the beats that I had. That they were so used to just dancing, practicing with the beats. Like, we'll just use this. So I never went to the set. I never met Bitbird. I never had any Sesame Street. It was just like, she hooked me up. I was living with her. She was kind of one of those, rare instances, when you get those rare mentors, straight Hollywood situation as well. But it was really cool to be placed in that, And again, I'm 51 now, so it's definitely followed me throughout my life. So it's an interesting thing though, because people are always like, "Oh, why you worked on Sesame Street?" I'm like, yeah, okay. You don't really think of it like that because I wasn't hired for it or anything. I was just there.
Hey man, you as long as you did something, like you worked on Sesame Street, like I would put it everywhere.
It happened. That was the blessings from the gods, man. I'm here. Okay, you need beats. All right, here we
go. For sure. But with regards to house music specifically, like how did you get into the scene? Like I mean, like you were now trying to get into the music industry and learning how to produce. But with regards to house music,
I never really set out to get into the house scene. It was from St. Louis. We're only 4 hours from Chicago, so I've always heard house music since it was, created. I have a lot of family in Chicago, and so we traveled a lot there. So I've always known about it, and I've always loved it. And I've always done house music, like just for my own personal. I always
Mm,
has like, tapes and tapes and tapes of house music. Like, oh, I like this music, but we never let anyone hear it.
mm,
And so after about 6 years or so working for the majors, I decided it wasn't for me because it was just kind of soul sucking, and I didn't feel like I was doing the music that was internally my music. I was chasing that. I wanted to be the next Teddy Riley or the biggest. I wanted to be why isn't my record on number one? And so you learn the business, which was great. I learned the business, and that's afforded me to create a label that was based on the old model, but my own way. And so when I started the label, yeah, it just kind of came from that. It's like um, I got off track here a bit.
house music. No, it's cool.
uh,
It's cool.
yeah, but the thing is, when you're starting something from like the major thing is, again, it was just such a soul sucking thing for me. And when I realized I wanted to start, like I do music, I got to the point of where I was, getting older, and I was like, all right, well, this is what I do for life. I don't have any other thing in this world I want to do. This is what I'm here to do. So I want to do this. I don't want to do it in this way. So when I started the label, I said, okay, well, I want the protection of the Orishas. I want my belief in my ancestors' culture to follow me and to protect us and to give it the power. And so yeah, it happened, and I didn't think of myself as the artist as well, because after all those years of working for the majors, you think you don't see your name on anything. You're just a small print producer or whatever. So when I first got the first record, it's like, oh, I'm the, I'm the artist now. So everything changed, and so it's pretty amazing how I'm sure you've experienced it as well. In South Africa, I don't know really how the demographic or the makeup is in the music business there, but I'm assuming there's so many challenges as well
Mm,
with everybody. As I'm sure it's so saturated there as well, where everybody's trying to do it. So
mm,
you have to find your own. You have to find your own way, and it has to be the way that's like got to be separate from everyone else,
mm,
but something that can people can be. I can grab a demographic that gets it, and so it's really hard to do that and maintain it and stay, really honest with yourself in the way that you're like, okay, I'm doing this and this is the music that whether someone hears it or not,
mm,
it doesn't matter. The
mm.
joy is that people do get it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now I can actually maybe eat from this, but
Yeah.
you don't go into it for that. So I think the difference between the two situations, I guess, with the end result from what I'm trying to say is, the working for the music business and all those things, it gave me the craft. I learned how a major record label runs their business. And I learned what I didn't want to do
Mm,
from that situation. I
mm,
learned that I wanted to, bring people in that, maybe they don't really know what their voice is, or maybe they don't know what they want to do, and I learned how to be an A&R and to mentor people and take them, well, maybe you don't need to, take 4 years out, but let's just really grasp what you're trying to say and
yeah.
how you need to sound. And so, I get so many demos from people. People just send me demos, and I apologize for anyone that's listening. If you send me a demo, I will not listen to it. Not because it's not good, not because it's not anything. It's just because my label is strictly, it's a family. I know most of these people, they come into my life no matter, whether it's from a club or it's from an introduction of family and friends or whatever it is.
Mm,
And music comes in as a part of it. It's never a thing of like music. Because for me, as a mentor, I want to know what's going on in your life. If you give me a song and you're like, oh, check out the song, it's the baddest song I'm doing it. And I know you're going through so much shit with your girlfriend. I'm like, well, no, that's not,
yeah.
you have to, this is a diary of your life. We're writing down the things that's literally going on with us. You listen
Mm,
to Marvin Gaye, all of his albums. It's literally Stevie Wonder. All of these, everything. It's our life, and
mm,
it has to be honest. It has to be real. And I think you have to know the people to be able to say to them, hey, And if you're not that close with them, then it becomes, a little bit, more rugged. So
mm,
I like to keep it to where I really, I'm able to literally help people speak their own truth, and it allows me to grow as well because I learn so much from other people. And it's just great to be able to have a situation where I have a family that I can say, I need a violin for this, right? I got all these musicians now. It's like they're my family. We
yeah.
do this. We never think about money. We never think about any of this because we're all struggling in this world anyway. As far as an artist, this is an
Mm,
artist never really makes all these people that think we live all these fantastic lives. We pay bills just like you do. We're
yeah.
struggling with how to pay my car note and my phone bill.
Mm,
Same thing. But when you get to the point of where I've gotten to the point at least where it's like this is what I do and this is why I'm here. No matter what happens in this world, I am here to leave as much of me
Mm.
on some form of listeningable
Mm.
format, to say that I was here and hopefully that people, connect with it and they, it changes some kind of emotions and
Mm.
some vibrations in them, sad, happy dance, whatever, healing, whatever it is,
Mm.
because this is the one language we all speak no matter where you come from.
True. True. True.
You know what I mean? You can hear
Yeah.
melody in Russian, you'd be like, what is she saying about? I don't know, but it's I know what it's about.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's saying, but I know what it's about.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is like we have to be honest with that, and we have to be able
Mm.
to heal each other because this is, just like you see all the riots and all the stuff that's going on in the world. Music, the voice, it's the music. However, that power comes from that. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest blessing in the world, and that's my only reason for doing all of this. And
Yeah.
I'm really really grateful that people like you, that you're the next generation. It's gonna be some guys that are gonna be seeing this and they'll be like, yeah, I was watching your thing. They'll
Yeah.
be interviewing you the next day.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is to bring it down and
True.
to pass it down and to watch like people that are doing really good things that are not about that thing that I was trying to be when I was a kid.
Mm. Mm.
Just your music is your music. It's your heart. It's your voice. It's whatever's pure within you. I
Mm.
was speaking to a friend today, an artist who was going through some dramas. And I was like, man, just put it in a song. Write it down. Just put it in a song.
Yeah. True. True.
Release
Right.
it. Let it go.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we do as artists. Like we reflect the times, Like I feel like
Yeah.
I was saying this another time with another guest that I had on the show that I feel that we need to do that more because especially with house music in South Africa is such a big thing, such a big genre. It's celebrated.
Yeah.
We playing on radio, on national radio, on mainstream television, and you don't find
Yep.
that in so many other countries. So we need to
No other
be
country. No other country.
no other country, right? Yeah, just to
No
state
other country.
that. But
On this level, no other country.
yeah, yeah,
That's what's amazing about South Africa.
yeah, and I always felt like we need to be reflecting the times more. We shouldn't let times pass as if like nothing has happened, so people can listen to this. Actually, in this era, this is what happened in South Africa, and we will get to what you touched on a bit with regards to the Black Lives Matter movement and just like black consciousness movements in America, in South Africa, and around the world. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about. I mean, you've produced for a lot of soul artists, like Eric Benet, just to name a few, to name one.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that house music, as soulful as it could be, it's not respected enough amongst other soul genres?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is. And as opposed, I mean, I think they're all listening to it at home, but I don't think they think it's a viable resource. I think they think that the EDM and those kind of things, and that's why you have people connecting with those kinds of people because I think they think that the separation of the music, but it's like, no, this music is the music. This is our music. It's soul music. It's the same music. But I think when you talk about that, you listen to music now, R&B soul music, it's all whitewashed. You know what I mean? Even hip hop, it's all whitewashed. There's more white artists doing it than there are black artists.
True.
So don't get me started on that. But again, that's the whole world that, if that's your thing, that's fine. I don't think that that's an honest representation of anyone. I think that that's the thing. If you want to be rich, you want to be famous, go for it. But when you get older and things have to matter more, I think it's really important for people in South Africa to start doing music about what's going on now. I think that's one of the things that should be done more with house music is, songs about now and songs about, we have so many things about uplifting and all this, but it's like, no one really talks about the things that's happening, and I put records out that are about that. It's like this guy died and they lynched this black guy last year, and they said it was a suicide. Now, the song I put out last year, there's been 7 of the same situations in the last 3 weeks in the States since then. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you don't speak about it and tell people, they don't know.
True.
True. So I mean, I think it's a responsibility for me as well because, I have really, I have a lot of people to look after and to be, that I worry about in this world. That's like, this world is going in a place that we don't know. And so I think it's really important for all of us to be responsible and do as much as we can to educate each other, educate ourselves,
Mm,
look against, all of the stuff that's coming in us as all ways, and kind of just your spirit knows what works,
mm.
what's right,
True, true.
and I think that's the way we're going to get through all of this, because right now it's really, I think everybody's a bit anxious. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows what's going on, or
Mm,
the future is so, in this big question mark thing, and so, I've been telling people, just chill, listen to some music, go inside yourself. This is the best time for you to realize whatever it is that you need to do to be a better you,
mm,
because the next world is never going to be, this world is never going to be the same as it
mm,
was,
true,
you know.
true that.
And so we should not be either. We have to be better with ourselves. We have to be better with other things. And so music
Yeah.
is a part of it. So all you South African people out there, stop singing songs about love and sing songs about how you're being treated and how you need to be loved.
Sure. Just getting back to the music, I want to know from
Yeah,
you, right? Like, as you were just releasing stuff on your label, um,
yeah.
what were what was like some of the surprising releases that you put out, and you were like, oh damn, actually people are onto this thing.
You know what? It's so varies for me. It's always the opposite for me. It's always the song that I know is going to be the jam and it does nothing. It's always the opposite of me. I'll press up you know, like for example, body drumming. When I did body drumming, I was like, "Oh, this is the shit."
Yeah, right.
I pressed that, but I pressed 1,000 copies of that
Oh
record.
damn.
You know how many I have downstairs in my basement? Probably about 800, 700.
Damn, bro. I mean, a friend of mine had that one of that, but and I have to ask you about specifically that record. Did you change pitch? I mean, tempo. In the production, does it
No, no,
vary?
no. When I produce, I don't quantize.
Ah,
I
I
do it
see.
all the way down.
I see.
I play all the way down. So what you're hearing is the percussion. It fluctuates.
Yeah.
So there's parts that's loops with the bell is a loop. So
Yes.
I had to shift with that. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I
I just
got
did a
you.
remix for an Australian band, and it was like literally the song started at 105 and it ended at 118. So I had, those situations. You just have. There's no way you can you can put it in the thing and go,
Yeah.
yeah. You just got to go all the way down. So,
Yeah.
but it's challenging, but it's also cool because it gives you the sense that it's actually human playing this music.
True. True.
Not exact sometimes, but it works.
Yeah, but and I want to get into that your production techniques, because I remember when you did my remix for Memories on Gogo Music,
Yeah.
and Ralph was telling me that no, he says he doesn't use plugins, he doesn't really use VSTs. Like, what is your
No.
production techniques? If you could explain it and paint it for people.
Mostly. I mean, I do use some plugins, mostly for post production. I have UAD audio, the Apollo, and so I use a lot of their post production stuff for. Yeah, more into that's one of the things that happened with me with learning from the old school. Learning on big SSLs, and for me, it's about the sound, the quality, the sonic, the gloss. So I use plugins for that. There are a few things I really love. If you haven't checked out Rolling Cloud is the best thing out there, which I use a lot. And that's kind of new, but yeah, I do use some things. I mean, I sample sometimes, but for me, it's more about I want to make that cup sound like something. I don't want
Yeah.
to. I want to do something. I want something to sound like it's never sounded before, especially for myself. I don't want to hear. I don't want to reprogram something that I've already done. So normally I'll start with drums, which could either be live drums from drum sets, or I'll either sample some kicks or some snares or something, some hats, or I either play it down. If I play it down, I either play it, maybe 16 bars, or depending on what it is. If it's a funk thing, I'll play it all the way down and just
Mm.
play on top of it, and the song builds from that. If it's a house thing, it will just be, there's the parts and maybe a loop from something. And then I'll add percussion from there. Normally, from there, it goes from the melodies, which for me is a chorus. So it'll be Rhodes, or either, if it's something more electronic or a little bit more clubby, it'll be Senf or something like that. But bass is always the last thing I put in the song.
Wow.
And I was talking to Ian Friday a few weeks ago, and he was playing. We were doing a conversation. I said, you just playing a lot of stuff, and I was telling people don't realize a lot of my songs don't have basses.
I've
I
realized that
use
because you use a lot of long kicks
I use a
as
lot of low. I use a lot of low frequencies to replace bass notes. So I
ah
use a tom. So I take the highs and the mids off the tom and
mm,
just use the lows, and then I'll tune it, and that'll be the bass. So I do things like that, as opposed to using basses. So for me, it's always about building up the structure, like building a castle, and I'm building it. All right, I don't want to put the windows on yet, or the
yeah.
door. The door is the last thing. So if I know when I get to that part, and if it's got vocals in it or whatever it is, and I can hear that song complete and beautiful and lush without a bass, I
Mm,
know that with a bass, it's gonna be amazing, because then with the bass I can take it anywhere I want to go. I can go
mm,
any key. So
mm,
that's always the last thing. So that's kind of like my thing. Vocals, lyrics, always the last thing I do. I'm a music man first, so I always do music first. There's never a time when I've written a song out of my head where it's lyric. There's been a few, but it's really random. I think probably in my 21 years, maybe two songs I've written, heard the lyrics and the melody, and then wrote the song. It's always music first. And it's really shitty, because a lot of people give me, I got this song for you that I've written. I'm like, I can't do anything with that. I don't know what that means to me. I can't even do that for me. So,
yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much thing. And then I'll spend, because I work on a lot of things at one time. So I work on probably 2 or 3 albums at a time. What I mean albums. So say if I'm working on, say, 4 songs, in my mind I've already got an idea for which project each of one of
Mm,
those things are going for, based upon the style or whatever, or what I want to build it off of.
mm,
Of course, those could change or whatever. Um, so I'm always in the thing of, for me, it's all about, like, how do I sonically freak everything that I've done before into something else, but that's honest, and it sounds good and it's palatable as well.
mm.
Without stretching too far. So it's a balancing act. But sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. That's why we have the vaults. The songs that it's like,
True, true, true. And I want to ask about like your relationship with Martin Edges and his influence, or his not necessarily influence, his impact, collaborative input into your music. I know
oh
he's
man,
mixed a lot of
Martin
your
for
stuff.
me is like, Martin is honestly the most underrated artist producer in the world,
I agree.
hands down. Hands down, the most underrated. I think because he's so humble and he's a family man, and he's like us. He does it because he loves it. He doesn't need any of the other things. But that fucking guy, I hate him because he's so good. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, example, he and Tony Becker, those people have left brains. It's like those brains are like, they see X's and O's and L's, and they see all of the metric stuff in their brain. And they're sonic. You listen to this, I go to the studio, and I'm like, how did you create that sound? But
Right.
I think that's also the beauty of artists, because we appreciate what our peers do that we can't do.
Mm.
So the appreciation comes from, like, I'll send him something like, fuck you, like, bro, but you did that song, so fuck you. So I think the collaboration is the things that we want to do. Again, it's always approaching it in a way of, how can we outdo ourselves? How not outdo ourselves in a competitive way, but how can we stretch? How can I refine that sound or that song or that thing that's like, and it's always the challenge of, we actually have a few things that are kind of on the back burner that we have collaboration now, and for a few projects, and it's always the thing, we're sitting up like, well, where's it gonna go to? Where are we gonna go with it? And
Yeah.
so it's like, you overthink it, and then sometimes you just like, no, you just leave it. But
Mm.
it's always an honor. He and I and Charisma, we have a very good bond as brothers on anything musical. We don't speak on it. If you need something, here it is. We don't, there's no business. It's like, I need a remix. I need a vocal on this. I need you to master this. It's just, it's love. It's whatever you
Amazing.
need is done.
Dope.
And that, and I think that's the biggest part of all of the collaborative things, that, again, it is a family, and it's important to have those people that offer you that.
Mm.
It builds you up, and you don't have to do this stuff alone.
Mm. True, true, true. And I wanna talking about collaborative projects. You've done like specifically two that I wanna mention: the Ateleo with Pasta Boys,
Yeah.
and Polarity recently with Burley Mac. What is it
Yeah.
about those kind of collaborations that you get into?
Well, at the label was, oh man, that was such an amazing experience. So I met those guys playing at one of their parties back in the late, yeah, I want to say like maybe not even the late, maybe like 96 or something. I had a party in Bologna. So I would go to Bologna, I would probably say maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And so we just got to, they had one of the most amazing studios. And they had all these Italian, musicians. They'd like be like, "Oh, I need a baritone sax. Oh, we got a guy." So we just get the studio, and those boys are bad. So all of that stuff, they did all the drums.
Hmm.
That's all the drum programming is there. Those boys are bad on drums, man. And I did all of the music, I mean, whatever the vocals and all that. But yeah, it was always great. They actually helped me with the Musubu, the Salifieta as
Yes.
well. They did that with me as well. So it was always good. Again, it's just again kindred spirits. Those are African brothers, man. Those
Yes.
Italian boys are African. They have a soul, and it's organic and it's rich, and they love. They have I don't know if you know. They used to have a label called Mano Calda,
Oh yes, yes,
Mano.
yes, yes. I remember the label. Yeah.
Whoa, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that, and then what was the other one? Polarity. Polarity.
Yeah.
So Burley Mac is he's one of my partners from my camp at Burning Man. He's in my camp at Burning Man, which is a big family that I've been in for years, and so we've known each other for a few years. And again, we go back to the mentorship thing. He played me some stuff, and I heard some things, and it just kind of needed to be more of him. So we spent a few years together, and still now he's actually working on his first EP and album as we speak. So I figured, let's do something together. I've never done a collaboration that was an actual electronic thing that I would DJ with somebody and play with. So it was actually, and so it was also cool because how we approached the songs, it wasn't coming from me first. All the stuff came from him first.
Mm.
So all of the initial tracks or the ideas came from, things that he had. And so it was the thing of, it was actually cool because I kind of approached that whole project initially as a remix thing, and then we started to get together and actually collab in the room together, which became an entirely different thing. So, and it was cool because, I'm usually the one that's running the helm, but, to have someone that's, because he works in Ableton, I work in Logic or Luna and other things. So it's actually interesting to work with somebody that's like running it. Oh, I can just play here and you can do all that stuff. So it works really well because, you have to comply with each other, and I'm not
Mm.
really good at that. So you got you gotta check yourself and be a little bit more chill in the situation, and kind of come to some happy medium. But I think we got a thing that's very us on that. Same with the accidental thing. Those kinds of things you couldn't get that sound on anything else. It's just that's what it is. It's a bit of
Mm.
everybody.
Yeah, and what I like the most about the Atelo project, I mean specifically about the song that you did with the baritone sax, and it was a long sax solo. Like I was like, I'm a
Oh
fan for
yeah, yeah.
for horn sections. And to have a baritone sax, which is an instrument that is not so easily,
Yeah, you don't hear it.
you
Yeah.
don't hear
So
it
the guy, yeah,
anywhere.
it was. We were in the middle of the session. It was like, man, I was like, this groove is so good. We need a bat. I was like, where am I getting a baritone? And they were like, yeah, we got one in. I'm like, we're in the middle of freezing winter in Bologna, Italy. You got a baritone sax at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's gonna you came. And it was just like, one or two take done.
True, true. But
Yeah.
what I want to ask you as well about that project is your singing, and I think you
Yeah.
are you are so dope, you man. Like
Thank you,
the
brother.
writing is dope.
That's the
Like
funny thing. Most people don't even know that I sing. People are like, oh, you sing? I didn't know you were singing. Like every song that you've ever heard of mine is me singing.
true, because like I want to know about that. Like, why have you not put yourself out there more as a singer?
Everything I do is me as a singer. What more do I have to do? I'm singing
I
on it all. I think the misconception with people is that, first of all, most people don't even know that I do anything outside of house, and that house is probably the least of the type of music that I do. So I think the stigma comes from that because people associate house music with DJs. Most DJs, first of all, are not singers. They're not even musicians. Some
yeah,
of them are not even DJs.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so so you have all these things, and I think that that's the stigma. So that, I'm kind of lumped into that whole thing in some way. which doesn't, whatever, it doesn't bother me. But again, it goes back to my idea of why I'm here. I really believe music. The music's here. At the end of the day, they'll find it and they'll realize it. They'll read the credits. It says I sang it on there, and it's fine for me.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah.
man. Yes, yes, yeah. And just talking about, well, before I jump on the your live band stuff, let me just ask you, because you mentioned Burning Man. What is it? What really goes down there?
You got to go to see it. That's all I got to tell you.
I need to
It's
see.
not. It's not. It's not a festival. It's not a festival. It has nothing to do with music. It has nothing. It is a community of self-sustained people of about 100,000 people, self-sustained in the desert, living in the harshest conditions. It has nothing to do with it. Yeah, there's parties. Yeah, there's all of that. There's everything you've ever seen and thought about. Yeah, it's all there. But the premise is, what can we do as a self-sustained, self-governed place without anything else? There's no. You can't buy anything. You can't sell anything. Only what you brought to live on,
Hmm.
or whatever you share with someone else. And it's just the kindness that you're in this community in the desert. And the desert is whooping your ass. You got like minus 20 at night, centigrade, to plus 40 in the day. So it's
That is
brutal. So you're dealing with all these things, and if you're partying and you're partying, it's all these things going on. So I think it's the most amazing experience if you want to find humility,
hmm.
because you leave it learning how to be a better person for the rest of the people who haven't experienced it, because you've been in for nearly 10 days in this place where there was no commerce, there was no capitalism, there was nothing anyone could take from you, there was nothing anyone could sell to you, only give you what they had or
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
So that thing, and then you get into the world where you got to go put your petrol in the car, and the person's looking at you angry, and that whole thing, it just changes. You're like, wow, I didn't see that world before. So
Hmm.
it just changes your perspective.
Hmm.
That's what it does, and that's why people. That's why I've been going. I'm there. I've gone 11 years now. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of a reset. You reset and
Hmm.
you really realize, okay, I'm this ant on this planet, and yeah, there are greater things, and I have this great life and all these things, but there's so many more things. There's so many things that I can do more. There's so
Hmm.
many things I can do better. I can help more. I can, be more selfless. So,
Hmm.
and I guess that gives you that sense, and also, of course, it becomes a reunion for every person that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's DJs that's in the world. And you say, oh, there are camps over there. Let me go see. So it's that as well. But I think it's really important for people to, if they can't find that, go to something like that. That just really they get out of their ego, they get out of their head, and they
Hmm.
allow their hearts to be like, everything that you thought you didn't know how to accept is the thing that's gonna free you. You
Hmm.
know, and
Hmm.
so that's what Burning Man is in
Man,
the end. Yeah.
I really do wish to go there someday, because I do believe that putting ourselves in spaces that are not comfortable, for like to us
Oh, that's
who,
how you change.
yeah, that's how
That's how
you,
you change.
because other people
You have
live
to.
that every day, like
Why do you
that's,
think we're going through what we're going through now?
true, right?
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
it has to be uncomfortable. It's going to get worse first.
True, that is true.
You know.
And I think just like to live other people's reality. Some people go through the reality every day. Like it's winter in South Africa, it looks a bit cloudy outside, and I'm always like thinking, damn man, like there's somebody out there who doesn't have blankets. They're out in the cold. They don't have
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
food. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's all like it just brings me more gratitude to what I have, but also gives me um, the the thing that says, like, when I see somebody needing something, like if somebody needs
Yeah, you
bread,
just give it.
yeah, just
Yeah.
buy bread for somebody, buy some
and
food, buy
and
a
what you
blanket.
get from that, and how much further you go within yourself, because you go from that and you go, wow, okay, now I got to really do more for me too, so
Mm,
that I can do more of that for more people.
true, true,
So
true.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, it's
important.
a story of humility too, man. I wanna ask you about your live band performances, because I saw last year you did a couple of performances in
Yeah, we were
Paris.
we were out promoting the Ache album, which for me is my pretty much my only album. No, I can't say that, but yeah, we were promoting that. Sorry.
No, no, no.
Yeah, we were promoting that, and we did like four dates over there. We were gonna go back out until COVID came and hit us, but yeah, that's kind of like, that's where my heart is. But it's so difficult to do because it's such a cost effective thing.
Mm.
It's just a cost, it's costly, and I have quite a big band, and just with the overhead doesn't really pay. So it's really difficult to do. I love doing it because it's not like DJing, because it's always spontaneous, and
Mm.
I'm not saying the DJ is not spontaneous, but when you're live, you can have a heckler, you can have anything can happen, and you just got to
Yeah.
deal with it right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's off, or yeah. So it's always cool. And then the other thing is, as a DJ, you travel the world by yourself. People think you have this great life. It's like, no, I see airports, hotels, restaurants, clubs, hotels, restaurants, airports, clubs. And so it's like, with a band, you get to at least do that with other people. So it's never,
Mm.
there's all this camaraderie and the jokes, and you have all the tension as well and all that stuff. But it's a little bit, it's I think your evolution rate is like this, because
Yeah.
you're living everyone's experience at the same time,
Mm. Mm.
you know.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I love it, and we will do more of it. It's just, it's difficult because my band's here in St. Louis, so it's six of us coming from the States, and most of my audience is in Europe. So,
Mm.
it's a bit difficult, but yeah, we will do it. But it's definitely the top. The top is my. I mean, I love DJing. It's that's a great skill to have, and I get to do more of my talent when it's live. I get to play stuff, I get to sing, I get to just watch other people play, and
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
man, I really do hope to see more of that, especially in South Africa, because
No, you've
like
never
we,
done it there.
yeah, yeah, you never, and like I say, many people don't know that you sing too, so that would be like,
Yeah, yeah,
quite a
yeah, yeah.
big thing, I think.
As they sing my songs with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like the performance of Envision, that you did, I was like, damn.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
such an electronic song, but when you see it live, it's still electronic, but like,
It's still electronic, but it's a different thing.
it's
Yeah,
a
it's a
different
different thing.
thing,
Yeah, and that's the
definitely.
thing. That's the thing I like to do with the live, because we transform those electronic songs into something else.
Mm,
To soul. We basically just put it in the soul context that they come from.
true, true, true.
But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I love it.
So in 2011 you moved to Greece, but I heard in an interview you said as long as you are in America, you feel that you are guilty, and I want to just get into the Black
I mean,
consciousness movement.
this place is fucked, man. Listen, this is the worst country in the world, hands down. It's the worst country in the world. No matter what anyone tells you, I've grown up here all my life. I've been all around the world, and this is absolutely not the first world. This is the worst fucking shithole in the world. The system does not work for us specifically. It is not fair. It is not balanced. It is very, very, very much like South Africa, I should say. But it's just not right. And the sad thing is that most of the people, and even me, I guess, growing up here as a kid, we grow up in this conditioned place to where we're conditioned to understand life as a specific way. Luckily, music was given to me. I was, blessed with it, and it allowed me to get out and see the world, and see other cultures, and meet other people from things, and integrate things in my life, and my body, and my spirit, and my soul, that work with me, and that make me understand that I'm greater than American. It's like, well, that's just where my mom gave birth. That doesn't represent anything of my spirit or my heart. I have nothing to do with this country.
Mm,
It's always been an anomaly to me, because I don't feel like I've ever belonged here. I understand it.
mm,
I feel safe in any place in this country, no matter where I go. I understand it culturally. I live it. It is of me. I am of it. But it is the worst fucking shithole in the world, man. It's the worst place. People are just not treated fair overall, and luckily, finally, it's being called out, and we're seeing. Unfortunately, we had to see one of our brothers die live on television for people to do something about it, but I think it's long overdue. It is going to be a really long battle over here, specifically because this is the worst place, because we have all these guns,
mm, mm,
and you guys don't get a lot of the news, but now people are basically out in the streets with their guns, like literally, get in no argument with somebody, pull your gun out. That's kind of what's happening here on the everyday.
mm,
So it's getting very apocalyptic in some ways. I'm hopeful, but we get the gun as well. So it's that kind of thing. You got to kind of think, like, where's the world going to go? What we were speaking about in the beginning, and no one knows, and that's fine as well. You know, but I think now is the time for us to really kind of spend time with the ones you love. really educate yourself about what's going on in your communities, the people that are serving you, because what we're finding out here is that, it's not just the stupid fucking president or the White House or any of this stuff. It's the people that we elected to run this community right here that goes to the next community. It's these people. And so, we're getting rid of those people. And I think that that's the thing that's changing here that's never happened, that we are literally voting the people out that are, we're paying the bills that are actually, fucking us over here.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think, Americans are very complacent people. They have all their benefits and all their nice things and luxuries and shit. So they don't have a reason to fucking get up and go protest and stuff. But the next generation, these kids are not having it. They're like, you gave us this world, really? No, we're not happy with this. And so I'm happy to see that. And and I think people that my age, John, your age generation, we need to be really, really responsible now, because things are going to be different, and we're going to have to. I was watching a thing earlier today that was saying, the lady was saying, we're going to all have to get together at some place, at some point, as people, no matter who you are. You're always going to have to get together. People are going to have to. Some people have to take care of some people. Some people have to be in the battle. Some people have to feed the people. Some people have to nurse the people. And that's kind of what I'm seeing is happening. People are taking care of each other in some parts, and people are preparing themselves for the worst, and people are acting the worst. So it's all those things. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not afraid. I'm not worried. I think that this is the purge of the worst shit that we've had to deal with in this world for too long. So I think and I hope that we should come out of this a little bit better.
Yeah,
at least consciously we will, for sure, because a lot of people are waking up. When you get done white Americans waking up and realize, oh really, that's that's big.
Yeah,
That's huge.
True. But I mean, I do want to ask you about South Africa, because I mean, a lot of people would know that in 2015, 2014, you had a statement after traveling to South Africa, and based on what you experienced, 2013.
Yeah, because for me, I was hurt that I was treated like white Americans from black South Africans there in certain situations. And for me, I'm like, do you see? They're killing us over here. Like, broad daylight, getting away with it. If you don't catch that here, it's going to be the same there. That was my point. I was pissed. So, yeah, I said things that maybe not right words, but angry black man, sorry. But that was my point. It's like, man, I see, so much promise. I started coming to South Africa, right after the apartheid, when our music was just, in the bring. And so I saw this beautiful, come back 10 years later, and I'm like, what's happened? What happened here? Like, what, and I get it. You got this big divide. You got so many people that made it, but you got all these other people. So, you have this divide. The same thing over here. So I get it. But my point was like, bro, you guys have to get up. You have to speak. You have to, that's how white people treat, South Africans horrible there. It's retail shops and shit like that. And I'm like, where the hell am I? What year is this? And so just all around, it wasn't just one incident. It was just the same thing I see here, I saw there. And it made me sick.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect, I brought my mom. I'm like, oh, you're gonna go to South Africa and see all these beautiful black people, see how they embrace us, and they didn't give us that. And that was like, oh, they put my foot in my mouth, and I was embarrassed for you, because I'm like, man, you guys were so much better than we have ever been, and this is where you are. Like, you're following suit. You're gonna be a copy of what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
In 2013, that was when they really started killing us, all these cops. It's 2027 years later. Nothing stopped. But you see what I'm saying? It's just that thing. I'm crying out to all my brothers, like, yo, I've got other friends that have visited South Africa, white friends that have had those experiences as well. You know what I mean? It's not just me. I'm just the nigga that'll say it.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes not going to be so nice, because I don't know how to be nice when you piss me off.
Yeah.
And that was what happened. And yes, I felt like, at the end of the day, everything that happened from that was beautiful for me, because as many people that, damned me and they weren't going to listen to my music were the same people 6 months later like, oh, I get it now. I get what you were saying.
Mm.
I didn't agree with what you were saying, how you were saying. Okay, I don't agree with how I said it, but
Yeah.
again, that was
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah.
But and then to see the standoff in Cape Town at the schools 3 months after I said that.
Yeah.
All those things. It's like that's all I'm speaking about. Like
Yeah.
stand up.
Yeah.
Open your mouth, speak for yourself. You shouldn't have to live like this.
Mm.
I'm just one man, and I'm a man that's like, you're not gonna treat me less than I treat myself.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's my way. That's the way I think everyone should live. And if I see you being treated this way, I'm gonna speak on it.
Mm. Mm. And
That's all that was for me.
yeah, 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 and it's unfortunate that because of the anger, the way it came out, and some of the
Yes.
words that you said, like were like but definitely the way I look at things, I never actually make conclusions about anybody's statements or anybody's thoughts, but I just take on what I want to take. And what I took from
Yeah.
that, definitely is true because in South Africa, black people are the majority in South Africa. Like there's,
Yes.
but you get statements and statistics that would tell you that 90% of South Africa's land is owned by 10% of white people and white multinational companies in South Africa.
Yeah.
And black people, 90% of the population actually only owns 10% of the land in South Africa. And this is not just any fruitless land. This is land full of wealth. This is land full of things that could actually bring our country and make it, the whole continent for that matter, make our
Yeah.
continent, the thriving force that it should be. It doesn't make sense that Africa, with all the natural resources, is considered the poorest continent when all of the
Yeah.
other European continents and European countries are so wealthy of our own wealth.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
You guys are poor, but they're rich. They're sucking all the life out of you.
Definitely,
Same over here.
but
But I think that's what I was speaking. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that's what I was speaking about in the thing of the shift of the world. I think that's where we are. That shift has to happen now. What's happening there? What's happening here? What's happening in Syria? What's happening all over the world? All this corruption, all this shit needs to stop.
But
and it takes us to make that happen.
Definitely, but I think the most, sorry to cut you off, I think the other most important thing that we are fighting against, is that we have against us. It's really the politics of the stomach. Like when you are faced with, should I really be going to work for that company, and should I really be? I need to support my family. I need to eat. I need this, and it's all of those kind of things that we are faced with, where we could be really taking upon a stand and really, I think in South Africa things should have already been burning by now with regards to the way things are, the way poor people have been raised.
I agree.
But definitely the politics of the stomach and just the feeling of, what am I gonna eat? Where am I gonna work? Stuff like that. I think we need to get to a point where we are definitely self-sufficient enough that when we go and take upon people and companies that are not doing that are doing the awful things in South Africa and Africa in general, we are at least secure that we have food, we've got families that we can on our own accord, if I may put it like that.
That is the key. Yeah,
definitely, man. And I mean, like this conversation, especially with regards to this, we could talk for another hour.
We can go further.
Yeah, but I wanna. And I know you would get worked out because, like, I just say on your.
But we'll do it again, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on your Instagram feed, like you talk a lot about that. But just in closing, I wanna ask you about music and spirituality. How does that translate in your own spirituality, translate into your music?
I think it's the same thing. I think it's what you said, the same thing. It's what we're speaking about again, that binding of the drum to that soft. The spirit is the soft thing. That's that thing that's like, yes, I want to be touched. I want to be touched inside. I don't want to be touched externally. I want you to feel me. I want you to understand what I'm going through. I want you to heal me. That's the thing. Like, you know, when you touch a rose,
Yeah.
do you know what it sounds like?
Yeah.
You know what it makes you feel like?
Yeah.
You know, and when you get that chord, you know, that one chord that you're like, whoa, did you hear that? And the tremolo comes and it just
Yeah.
makes, you know, that's the, what note am I going to put on that? Is it going to be too much? You know, the spiritual is the building of that cloud that you want to just place and be like, okay, there you go, just see what happens there. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that feeling that you know when you're done with something that's just like, you know, it, or not even when you're done, when you started, when you don't even think about it. It's like it just comes out of you. You know, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to play this chord or whatever. It's that when you hear it, you know, okay, yeah, that's, and then it takes you to this place. You know, most of our music is guided from sound, from sonics, from things that inspire us to take it to the next thing. The spirit is what's taking us to that thing.
True.
You know, spiritual is what's getting us to the final. And you're like, when you listen to, you're like, that's when you've been cleansed. You
Yeah.
know, that's for me
Yeah.
is that's how I look at when I'm creating. It's like that, you know, from the time you walk to the church to the time you got baptized. That's all notes. That's all tracks. You know, to the time you walk out of the church, that's when the song's finished.
Sure.
You know, that's for me that whole experience, and then sitting back and knowing like, wow, that's really a part of me. You know, I was really angry at that motherfucker. Oh, I had a great time, and you know, and it comes out in that song. And you know, like you see when you play it to people and they like want to jam, and you're like, yeah, that's what I wanted you to do.
Yeah.
Or somebody cries in a song, you know, that's the spirit of it. I think that's the connection. It's not something that you can create. It's just innate. It just happens.
And I think that's the healing of it. I think most
Yeah,
importantly, you know,
yeah.
as musicians, as artists, I consider us as healers who are called, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
and that it's so important that we play our roles accordingly and really be not
In tune.
clouded by a lot of other things that are going around, but really, you know,
Yeah,
fulfill our roles as healers. But man, I
yeah.
wanna say, Osunlade, bro, like you've been, you know, you've gifted your own life to this music and specifically house music, and for what house music is in South Africa, you've definitely played a big role, you know, with your productions throughout the years, and
I appreciate all of you, man. You guys are my family, and you've made it possible for me to be here as I am today. You're part of the big reason of why I'm here. So
sure,
I'm so grateful.
sure,
You know,
bro, and
and I got to
thank
get a
you.
remix from you soon.
For sure, hit me up, bro. Hit me up. I'm
Yeah,
down
I
for
got you.
that.
I got you. I
I'm
got
down
something
for
for you.
that. I'm down for that. And actually, you were here just recently at the DJ Nation party. I have to ask you about that. How
Yes,
was that experience?
always good, man. That was, I think, the best time I've ever had there. I mean, I've had some amazing times, but that was the best. That was a good party.
Dope, dope, dope. No,
Good
cool,
party.
cool,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
bro. Thank you. We'll catch up on soon
That's
when
fun.
we on you online, and just thank you for doing this with
Cheers,
me.
brother.
Cheers. Peace out.
I speak soon.
Cheers,
Yeah.
bro.
Bless everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone. So thank you so much for watching this and for spending your time. If you you know, if you enjoyed it, text somebody in the comment section who might enjoy the or learn from the conversation, and share the video too. And remember to stay creative. Peace out.